Welcome back to the Mythic Dungeon International here, and if you'd like to support the prize pools for the global finals for the MDI or the AWC, be sure to check out the Transmorpher Beacon or Horde or Alliance fireworks in the in-game store. I'm Jack, and joining me on the desk, we've got Sloot, Nagura, and Tettles here to take us into Game 4 of the day between Method NA and Games Revolted. And we haven't really seen too much of Games Revolted here so far, Nagura, but they do have a number of MDI veterans under their belt.
Yeah, so we actually have Speed, which actually played with me in the very first MDI Cup.
Really?
It's a long time ago. I also played with Now, by the way, from Method EU. I wonder why we lost. Definitely not my fault.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Wow.
Anyway, so we have Speed, we have Ada and Asmon, who also played in Rated.io the last time around, which was a, well, they were assumed to be a super good team. They didn't end up doing that well. Everyone kind of thought they're going to be winning the last MDI, and then ended up not doing that well. But yeah, Rated.io was a decent team last time around. So all of those people really veterans when it comes to Mythic Plus and the MDI. So interesting to see how they're going to do. They did have a little bit of a struggle with their tank. They wanted to start with a different tank, and then he kind of disappeared. So they had to switch up their tank last second and didn't get a lot of practice with him. But we'll see how they do.
So he just disappeared like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so, and Raider.io, they beat your team, right? Or anyway,
let's not talk about it.
They're only a mediocre team.
Ooh. Method NA Games Revolted's Game 1 is going to be on Waycrest Manor here with Fortified, Raging, and Grievous. We've seen this a couple times here, Sloot, and at this point, we're looking a little bit at that innovation. We've seen a couple of extra strategies, new things coming out of Method EU. Curious to see what we're going to see out of the NA side.
Yeah, I mean, some of it was, I don't want to say forced, but now reopened up and not forced anymore, that you can kind of make these really large pulls in the dungeon that we saw, you know, the second 1 million DPS pull coming in from Raw. So, yeah, I mean, certainly very restricting, very dangerous trash for the tank specifically. It's already got some of the hardest hitting trash on Fortified, add Raging into that. So we saw a couple of drops in the last series with Limit having a bit of struggle as well with tank death. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen a number of times Sloot's died at Waycrest Manor trash, so it wouldn't be unheard of for these guys to do the same here. Tettles, taking a look at this, we have the Unholy DKs back in force for some of these huge pulls here.
Yeah, without the affixes like kind of limiting the teams, the Unholy Death Knights can really shine here in Waycrest Manor. We expect to see some pretty big pulls in Lord and Lady Waycrest room, doing a lot of trash there in addition to that big raw pull that we always talk about.
All right, diving right in. Method NA's got the favor of chat right now at 79% to 21 as we go into Game 1 in Waycrest Manor between Method NA and Games Revolted.
Thanks a lot for that, Jack. And of course, it's always hard for the tank to survive when the healer's dead constantly in the dungeon. But nonetheless, we do see the Soulbound Goliath ominously approaching for the team here. And Nagura, of course, I'm sure you noted that I am wearing a different tie. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction backstage with some of the sauce from the delicious food at lunch. But nonetheless, let's get started with the dungeon here as both teams head off in the guaranteed top left opening of Waycrest Manor, diving straight into the Sisters, wasting no time. Method NA here on the left.
Yeah, seeing a very similar pull to Method EU, actually the exact same pull that Method EU did earlier, where they pulled a Triad boss with both of the Acolytes and the Toads on the left and right side. Now, we talked about this, that it is dangerous because of the 50% healing reduction aura that the first witch that is active with the Ares has here, or applies to the whole group. But as they have so much damage, and on a 45 setting, they just push the boss so fast, the healing reduction aura is gone within a couple of seconds.
Yeah, and they have certainly enough crowd control to deal with any trash that might be dangerous during that time. Games Revolted with a more, I wouldn't say traditional, but certainly a strat that we've seen more commonly in the past few cups here at the spring season, have actually gone with the trash of the guards and the captains down the left hall here, and have popped their own Bloodlust as well. So both teams' Bloodlust is down. Games Revolted will likely try to proc their first Reaping and take that on top of the Sister Triad boss here, whilst Method NA now dealing with their second round of Sisters, so phase 2 of the fight.
Yeah, Games Revolted doing more of another strategy where they do use the Bloodlust for trash alone. Now, we've seen that before in previous cups where people just go in, kind of ignore the trash, just do the trash first, use the Bloodlust for it, and Games Revolted are pulling the boss with the Acolytes too from the left side here. Now, we've seen Limit do this pull earlier without the Bloodlust, and they actually had a full team wipe coming in. So we'll see how Games Revolted does this now, having the Acolytes on top of the boss and no Bloodlust available to them, but they got rid of of Sister Selena here. They got her to 50%, meaning they're done with the 50% healing reduction aura, and it should be okay for them to clean up this pull here.
And they only pulled one of the Acolytes as well,
yeah,
not both sides of the room, so we'll see if they decide to pull the second one. I don't know if that'll be actually enough to proc their first Reaping. I don't think it will. Method NA grabbing what I believe are the guard captains back into the hall with these soul essences, so exact same pull as the Method EU counterpart. Interesting to see from the sister or brother team here on the NA counterpart for Method EU as they deal with, once again, this efficient trash pool in the hall. Solescence is having a much lower health pool than the corresponding guards, and captains will die faster, get through that enraging faster. We can see Nerf Clap, of course, taking it a bit slow here. Now that we are reaching that enraging, mobs doing 100% increased damage, sub 30%, can really whack the tank quite hard.
Yeah, very interesting to see that Method EU and Method NA actually are playing the same exact strategy here. I wonder why that is. But interestingly enough, Waycrest, in the time trials, Waycrest was actually done in 19 minutes and 51 seconds by Method NA, compared to Method EU just having this stellar time of 17 minutes and something. So Method NA is still 2 minutes slower than Method EU, so we're probably going to see some slower pulls later on, while Method NA had this huge trash on boss pulls. As we see, Rock's actually going down for games Revolted.
Rock's going down, and Aswin going down as well, just after getting the battle res up. So fortunately, the tank is up. They might be able to get this kill off just at the end here. 40% having to make sure to make interrupt, but Curry Monk goes down as well. Adak might be going down here in just a moment. Speed of Life proccing that cheat death from the Jagged Nettles. Adak just barely hanging on for health. They've snowballed completely into 4 stacks of Grievous right now and are barely holding on for dear life as Rux once again is ramped up to 4 stacks of Grievous. The one unfortunate downside of Protware as well, they just have no way to really raise that health pool outside of freezing their health a lot with Ignore Pain and just as much defense as they could pack on, and it's just not enough as a full team wipe, heartbreakingly, right at the last finish line of the triad for games Revolted. They will have to run back over and do the entire boss again. Method NA now dominantly in the courtyard, doing an equally large pull to Method EU and just getting ready with that shield wall to get everything down.
Such a devastating wipe coming back games Revolted. You just hate to see it when you wipe at the very last percentage of the boss, just having to do everything all over again. But they pulled one of the acolytes onto the boss at the very last second, and that is what really caused them to wipe. So just it is trying to get this efficient pull, getting the mobs on top of the boss at the very last boss being alive, at the very last witch being alive, and just having a complete wipe, just costing them so much here, pulling the acolyte on top. Well, Method NA on the other side, Zero Davs having a very clean run so far. They are in the courtyard now, dealing with their first reaping wave and some of the trash.
This is such a deja vu right now because Method NA is doing pretty much the exact same pulls as Method EU. Nice flawless run so far, 0 deaths, and games Revolted pretty much having the same wipe for the same reasons as Limit on the right side. There are 6 deaths on the board, so they're once again back on the triad, working through Sister Briar for the first time, or I suppose the 3rd time at this point. Method NA grabbing some more trash out from the Rawl Hall and bringing it into the room. If they do follow suit to the Method EU pulse here, we'll expect that they're going to proc their 40% reaping and then grab that on top of Soulbound Goliath and the mini boss that lies right in front of it, Matron Brindle as well. So pretty substantial pull that could be coming out from the team in just a moment as Nerf Clap pulls the remaining 3 Thorn Shaper / Thorn Guard combo in the corner.
Yeah, this corner pack gets skipped by quite a lot of teams because, you know, those Thorn Shapers are just very annoying to deal with. You have those casts that need to be interrupted. You have the I think Poison Thorns or something like that, Injected Thorns they need to interrupt. Then you also have the Soul Fetish coming out. There's just so many casts that are annoying. Then also Heal, Uproot. So that's why usually teams, or a lot of teams, skip those kind of mobs and deal with other trash later on. But Method NA actually dealing with those Thorn Shapers. I wonder, they're probably going to proc their Reaping with this. And then, as you said, they might pull it on top of the boss and have this huge like mini boss plus Reaping pool, which is definitely something that didn't work out for Method EU every single time.
Yeah, so they wiped 2 weeks ago on it, but this week did it successfully, and here we go. Exact same pull here from Method NA as they grab the 2nd Reaping on top of Matron Brindle, the 3 Thorn kind of Hounds as well, and the Soulbound Goliath, looking to get everything down. They don't have that Bloodlust available, but certainly would have saved at least offensive cooldowns for this huge amounts of damage coming out of Nerf Clap the Protware, and now finally Shakib the Unholy DK rocketing just slightly above him as well. So heavy damage really carried there by not only the Unholy DK but Thunderclap from the Protware. Games Revolted certainly still holding their own, 21% on trash as they've now moved into the courtyard and have done a pretty aggressive pull as well.
Yeah, same thing here coming up on Method NA. JB going into the cat form to make sure he doesn't get hit by this spike. When Brindle goes under 30%, he immediately used Soothe to get rid of the Enrage effect to make sure Nerf Clap actually stays alive, because this is a lot of tank damage here. Not only do you have all the trash mobs, but you also have the boss Goliath, who does increasing tank damage because he over time just buffs himself and increases damage done. As you can see, him actually getting dragged into the fire to get rid of the stacks and just kind of having this AoE damage on the group. group.
Yeah, 5% per stack indeed. So you do clean the stacks with the AoE, as Nagura mentioned, and surprised to see them do it so early because the tanks are usually quite resilient, especially warrior tanks versus this boss. But I guess they're just erring on the side of safety. We did see that he used that shield wall earlier with those 3 shields surrounding him, and once that faded off, he decided to just play it safe and get into that fire. Games Revolted here, just dealing with the rest of their first reaping wave. So obviously a fair bit behind after that first wipe. 6 deaths behind, so 30 seconds on the board that they need to cover up as well, as we see their tank Rux run into the hallway, grab a lot of trash, the entire hallway almost, and just come right back out with that Swift Foot potion. A lot of damage on the way in as well, so good for him to survive that as the Ring of Peace is laid in front of the door to make sure that all the trash is nicely grouped up.
Yeah, this Ring of Peace is very nice. We've seen it before from the teams, just making sure, because all the mobs don't arrive at the very same time, right? So you want to make sure that you have the Ring of Peace to delay the first mobs a little bit, so once the last mobs come in, they actually arrive at the very same time, so you can have the AoE stuns at the same time, you have the damage on all of them at the same time. So very good control coming out of Games Revolted here. Now, Method and A are about to kill Goliath here. They are in 46% trash, so they're just so far ahead at this point. They're one buff ahead, and they're also ahead in trash percentage. So it's definitely Method and A that are in the driver's seat here, and they have a very good time so far. So let's see how they're going to do against Method use time here.
Yeah, so let's see if they even end up doing the same pull. So this is where they kind of build up and work towards that pull. So if they're going to get just sub 60% worth of trash and then try to proc their third reaping into the Rawls room along with all the trash there, Bloodlust, everything, and just try to get that huge pull that we saw not only Method EU do, but Team D do as well, if I'm not mistaken, 3 weeks ago, I believe, on East Cup #1. Nonetheless, we'll see if they're able to pull it off, if they even do that in the first place. Games Revolted has procced their second reaping pack from trash, pulled it into Soulbound Goliath along with Matron Bindle, exact same pull that we've seen Method and A do just moments before, and they are still working towards that as Method and A now just hit 50%. A lot of enraging mobs in here along with these peasants that not only do a ton of damage, but when they die, they will spawn 3 extra maggots on the ground.
Yeah, so one thing to note about this strategy, pretty much copying Method EU at this point, is just the time that they had. I've talked about it earlier when Method EU was playing, that it was bad for Method EU to already reveal their strategy to the broadcast, because they were so much faster in Waycrest compared to anyone else in the time trials. And I think all the teams were just kind of wondering, what is Method EU doing in this dungeon? But then they had to play it as one of their very first maps on the broadcast, and the other teams were just able to watch them and see what they're doing. So Method and A didn't have to play up until now, meaning they had time to practice off stream. So maybe they saw Method EU strategy and they were like, you know what, we're gonna do this too. And then they just went to the tournament realms, tried out the strategy, and now they're doing it on broadcast too.
Well, unfortunately, Yoda does go down and he does not have that cheat death available. So Battle Res comes up from JB, making sure to get him nice and healthy. But Nerfclad dips, unfortunately, quite low, sub 20%, as he just backpedal kites back into the hall once again, likely to prepare the same pull as Method EU. I don't know, Nagura. This isn't the kind of thing you just kind of on a whim
they had
practice.
2 hours.
Yeah, they had a few hours. You know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It's also possible their slower time trials were just didn't work out in the 5 pulls that they had, but they tried it. So we'll see if they manage to pull it off here. But it is quite clear, at least, that they seem to be getting ready for this kind of pull. A lot of damage coming in on Nerfclad. He just can't seem to get out of that 4 stack of Grievous as JB just keeps pumping healing into him. A lot of enrages going on with the rest of the mobs right now. Really important for them as well to kill everything at the same time here, because they're only 1% away. But Nerfclad just dropping so low right now. JB's having a lot of trouble healing him.
Yeah, so on Games Revolted side, unfortunately, they had to reset the boss tree. They had to reset Goliath because they had the tank death coming in, they had a DPS tank death come in, and they just didn't have any battle rests available to them anymore. So they had to end up resetting Goliath, had to get everyone back up and engage the boss again. So at this point, Games Revolted definitely way far behind here, as they're on 44% trash only, didn't even kill Goliath yet. Method and A procced 60% reaping wave, just deal with the mobs here, with the marksmen, which they actually had a lot of trouble with the last time around. Last week, 2 weeks ago, sorry, they actually lost Waycrest to Method EU just because they wiped to those marksman pulls, because they didn't get an interrupt off. JB got hit by a trap or something like that. So definitely cleaning up their marksman pulls here and just making sure they're not wiping to those same mistakes again.
Certainly a much more modest version of the pulls we saw earlier. They actually deal with the Reaping Wave first. They've put some world markers down, and now they're dealing with all of the trash in Rawls room plus Rawl. Here comes the Bloodlust. A lot of damage coming in on top of Nerf right now as the pre-CD's going in, making sure that he's nice and safe. We get the punt out with the Ring of Peace just to make sure he doesn't get too much damage on him, as a lot of the mobs in rage right now should keep trying to get as much damage in as he can, just not the same level levels of damage, but also not the same amount of mobs. Of course, the Reaping is not in here. Halfway through the Bloodlust right now as they look to stabilize and have pulled off the rest of this. You know, it kind of seems like the way it seemed to me that they were indeed preparing for this kind of pull with Reaping. Why else would they drag that top pack all the way down in the hall and get ready for it? But I think things just didn't go very well. JB didn't have time to go and drink because so much damage came in on Nerf Clap. So I do feel like they were actually intending on doing the same pull as Method EU and Team D, but they just didn't feel comfortable doing it in the end. It didn't line up, so they just took it slow, especially because at this point I'm sure that they know that they're substantially ahead of Games Revolted.
Yeah, we also got to talk about tanking just in general when you do those huge pulls. I know, like, the numbers are the one that are oh my god, look at the damage, 1 million DPS, right? But the tanks are doing a very difficult job on those kind of pulls too. If you saw now, before having the Reaping, having all those mobs, plus the boss, it's just an insane amount of damage coming into the tank, and any small mistake will kill you, basically. So if you turn your back on one of the mobs, get a hit in the back, or you get a hit in the back from the boss, or anything like that, well, a huge mistake will kill you, and then you have all those mobs raging at the same time too. So those tanks having a very difficult job just staying alive when you do those huge pulls. So maybe what happened was Nerf Club just didn't have defenses ready enough and said, you know what, no, we're not going to do this pull. I just don't have defenses. I'm not comfortable doing it.
Speaking of issues here, Games Revolted tank does go down. Rux and causes Attack, of course, to be the secondary and threat, go down right away as well. The team runs out of the room, resetting Raw. They probably committed a lot of resources to that pull, and it looks like another full wipe coming out of that team. So 15 deaths on the board now as Method and cleans up the rest of Raw plus the Rune Weaver from the kitchen.
Yeah, so once Raw goes down here, they only need 19% trash. Actually, once they kill a Rune Weaver, they can skip the rest of the trash. So it's the exact same thing as we've seen from Method EU earlier. They just need to finish off the switch. They go into the second to last boss's room, clear all this trash there, clear the horrors, and then they're going to be done. So they don't have to do any sort of backtracking. They just, after this Rune Weaver, as we see the Sooth come out, there we go. It took him a while to use the Sooth, but it came out from JB here as the rage got dispelled by the Rune Weaver.
He's probably just mad at Nerf Clap that he wasn't ready for the big pull and decided, you know what, you deal with the enrage yourself. They do head downstairs, exact same pull pattern as Method EU here as they'll go all the way downstairs. Gonna be curious to see if they pull the boss on top of the remaining trash downstairs. But, you know, any kind of big, risky ooh and ah pull that we've seen before, there's really no point in Method and A doing right now and potentially choking or throwing or having any issues.
No.
So, I mean, but at this point they could, especially if Games Revolted just keeps having these kind of issues here as they get in, and Asmund goes down right away. Rux follows suit, and the rest of the team wipes yet again, hitting 20 deaths here on the right side. So a lot of struggles coming out of them. Once again, Method and A does not play it too aggressively, pulls all the trash downstairs here, but not with Lord and Lady Waycrest.
Yeah, I definitely like Method and A here not doing anything risky at this point, because really, why? I mean, if anyone is looking at the other stream, just seeing the 20 deaths, seeing they didn't even kill Ral yet, they're just so far behind. So Method and A definitely just play safe at this point. And also, like, not only is it good to play safer just so you don't have any wipes or anything go wrong, really, but they also just kind of disclose your strategy, really, because other teams that are watching might be like, oh, maybe they can't do the pull with the boss. Maybe they're just not able to do it. So we don't have to do it either, because we're not gonna be slower than them. But maybe they can do it, and they're just not showing it because at this point they're so far ahead, so they don't have to, right?
Perhaps it is indeed a classic situation of debating from Method and A here, trying to lure teams into a false sense of security and then really just kind of putting it into last gear. Method and A here, Lord Waycrest down to 50% for the second time, and 35% of course. Lady Waycrest will siphon her health back into Lord Waycrest, restoring it. She does this 3 times, after which joining the fight in the second phase at 10%, and the teams will have to hopefully efficiently cleave them down. Some opt to just kind of kill Lord Waycrest as quickly as possible because the tank damage can get a bit out of hand. Games Revolted finally back on Raw on the right side of the screen, on the small screen, dealing with what they can for the, I guess, 4th time they've pulled this boss, 3rd or 4th time. They've had a lot of struggles, but they keep going at it and pulling the trash along with the boss rather than taking it slow. At this point, Nagura, they must just figure we're all in. We got to do what we can. Let's just make risky plays and hope Method and A has a couple of wipes.
Yeah, so 20 deaths coming in for Games Revolted, definitely a disaster for them. We've seen Limit struggle in this dungeon too. It's really not easy at all. Waycrest on a fortified setting is already difficult, but then you also have the affixes like Raging, making it even more difficult, and Grievous at the same time. So those affixes are no joke, especially Grievous on a lot of heights it's just so annoying for the healer, because as you see here in Lady Waycrest and Lord Waycrest, usually it's not a lot of damage on a fortified setting, but the problem is you always have to heal people to full HP as soon as any sort of damage happens on the team, and it just, it costs you damage as a healer because you can't be in cat form all the time. You need to make sure everyone is topped so Grievous doesn't stack up, and it's just an annoying affix really. As we can see them pull the horse here, and we saw Method EU actually have some struggle the last time around.
Yeah, Nerf Cloud getting so low here, 6% as well, as JV just tries to pump as much healing as possible. They're getting ready with some crowd control on these Gloom Horrors right now. We have had somebody's bargain, the Cheat Death Trinket procced already on Nerf Clap, so he's quite vulnerable. Shield Wall finally does go up right now as the mobs enrage and they cleave the rest of them down. We saw how dangerous that was with Method EU as well, where they pulled Gorak Tool on top of it, so a lot of danger coming in. It did cost them the Trinket, but frankly at this point they've already done 100%. They Shadow Melded the final Reaping pack off and have headed off to Gorak Tool, which is of course in this fortified environment, so the chances of Nerf Clap dying here and eating that Trinket is really quite low. Oh, it looks like they didn't actually Shadow Meld the Reaping, so the Reaping does come in on top of the boss. Helps of course with Shakib's damage, and they just are going to close this one out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this boss, we didn't really see any teams struggle so far except Method EU, but they pulled the Horrors on top of it, which of course was the reason why they had a tank death coming in. So Method NA probably not going to have a huge problem here, as they only have to deal with the Reaping and the Slavers here. The Slavers are the boss mobs that are spawning throughout the fight. Now, they constantly target a person and cast an ability. If it's not being interrupted, then they will just kind of channel a stun on the person. So it's definitely very important that you make sure you interrupt the Slavers. You can interrupt it with Typhoon, any sort of knockback, and any sort of stun. So they probably have a rotation in place, and they're probably not going to have any of those stuns come through. And once the Slavers die, you actually want to collect those lanterns that are spawning around the room to burn their bodies, because if you don't burn them, the boss will revive them once in a while.
Yeah, certainly a fight that can snowball out of hand quite quickly, but Method NA, in typical Method NA fashion, looking quite nice and dominant here in their first game. Certainly don't have any issues or don't need to kind of shake off any cold play early in the tournament. They're looking to get right into it. Only one death, a quite successful Waycrest Manor coming out of them, Nagura. And, it did look like their pull pattern was pretty much on par with Method EU, minus pulling trash with the bosses, so a bit of aggression lost there. It begs to ask, did they do that only because they knew they were comfortably ahead, or it was never part of their strategy initially?
Yeah, we will see later on when they have to play against a team that isn't wiping on the very first boss a couple of times. If it's a closer match, we will see if Method NA can actually pull off the same things that we saw from Method EU earlier, as they kill the boss here and have a clean 1-0 against Games Revolted here.
Method NA taking game one in decisive fashion here on Waycrest Manor. Very good job by them, and this is really the Method NA that we've come to be expecting here, Sours.
Hey, it's me, Sours.
I was going to hold up yikes for that performance, but after you keep calling him Sours.
I'll take that.
Hey, it's me, Sours. So that was, like Sloot said, it wasn't because they couldn't pull bigger. It's because they chose not to. They were actually doing a very similar strategy to Method EU's pulls on the day, and they were on pace for a very, very quick Waycrest Manor. They had already improved on what they did in time trials, and they were actually just pulling so incredibly quickly. At the very beginning, we did see the Acolyte pull into Heartsbane Triad, and this kind of set them up to take advantage here. And we also did see Games Revolted here, just kind of wiping here to the first pull with their tank ended up going down. Then Asmon ends up going down without any battle reses left available for their group. They end up just having a full wipe. Obviously, Method NA here doing a very, very big pull into Raw. We saw some reaping into Raw too after they ended up doing that big pull, and then they chose not to do the trash into Lord and Lady Waycrest, and that's kind of where it differentiated between Method NA and Method EU. I'm pretty sure they could have done it if they really wanted to, but they chose not to because they were already so far ahead.
And that was really the only thing that was going to be sinking their ship there, Tettles. And it's very, very important to know when they're ahead and make sure they're taking good stock of that. So game two is going to be up on Atal'Dazar, but first we're going to be taking a quick break. So don't go anywhere, guys. Game two between Method NA and Games Revolted right after this. Method NA up 1-0 over Games Revolted here as we're moving on into Atal'Dazar. Game that in many ways, Method NA has just been so dominant on. So analyst number 3, tell us a little bit here about Games Revolted on Atal'Dazar. It just seemed like Waycrest Manor wasn't really going their way at all, and they just kept stacking up deaths.
Yeah, and a team of MDI veterans, I definitely expected more out of Games Revolted here. In Atal'Dazar, it's going to be a bolstering setting, which means that you have to end up dealing with the Sarids, and how you end up dealing with like the Augurs and the Confessors makes it a little bit different than how you normally end up dealing with it. So making sure that they end up dealing with the Sarids with the Sky Screamers and making sure that they DPS down those packs evenly is very important for not only Games Revolted, but for Method NA as well.
We haven't really had too many problems with quaking on this map here, Sloot, going into it, and it mainly just seems like the bolstering problems have just been the name of the game going through this one.
Yeah, there's not too many, quaking really shines in danger when you have a lot of, let's say, dangerous boss mechanics that when combined with the quaking can one-shot you. Nothing too dangerous here from quaking. It could be certainly a nuisance if they're snapping any of the swords and all the melee kind of follow suit and then they have to jump away, but bolstering is certainly the one to look out for right now.
Yeah, and Fortified, I mean, in many cases, as you mentioned, the Confessors, having to deal with the Augurs and everything like that, a lot of times it's just that first pull which really starts setting the pace here. And I know Tettles, actually, it was funny, Tettles and Sours were both talking about this one. They love talking about the golems here. You think they're going to run any of them?
Dude, if they pull any of the golems, that would be insane.
You're so excited about this.
The Colossus golems are such a bad pull, and we see 40K pulling it every single week, and it is such a bad pull.
But you love it.
I love to watch.
40K is not playing.
I know they're not playing. That's
Sours.
I know 40K is not playing, but they're the only team I've ever seen pull them.
Game 2 between Games Revolted and Method NA going to be coming up in just a second on this one. They're just making sure they're getting a quick reset before we get started. Nagura, at this point, what does Games Revolted really need to do to stay in this? It just seems like they started off on really the wrong foot.
They have to try to not have 20 deaths, I feel like.
We are killing it today.
No, like, that's such a bad run in Waycrest. They really just have to clean up their play. And even then, Method NA just has been showing that they have very good strategies. If they don't make any mistakes on Method NA's side, they just have clean runs. They're very fast. So I think they just have to, Games Revolted just have to do clean runs and hope that Method NA makes mistakes.
Never before seen strategies coming out of Method on Waycrest. But yeah, certainly, yeah, don't die 20 times. But I think the biggest thing that they kind of have to overcome right now is probably mental state. They're obviously very frustrated with that dungeon, not happy with their own performance. And, we've seen a lot of teams throughout the past few weeks be able to just kind of turn it around after things have gone sour. So curious to see, especially on this kind of vanilla, what?
Sour.
Why is Sours talking?
I don't know.
So we're going to have to see if they're able to really kind of just turn it around here in this vanilla-ish map, Yeah,
I think in that point with mental state, they also got to be looking at how much they're expecting to be able to take this series against their opponents, or if they're preparing something for the lower brackets here. We've seen a number of different times teams do have that stronger mental state once they start dropping down to the lower bracket. I mean, 40K last week, Naguro, was a perfect example of that, where they just continue to be able to blaze their way through it.
Yeah, so I think some teams actually just don't prepare at all for their first match, but especially if you're like the number 8 seed versus the number 1 seed and you feel like, oh, I don't have a chance against this team anyway. So maybe that is the case here for Games Revolted coming in. They just feel like they lose against Method NA, so they just practice for a lower bracket.
Yeah, teams put rather limited time in for their practice.
Yeah, and Method NA going to be trying to seal up this series early in Game 2 on Atal'Dazar.
So both teams right now, we know we're in Fortified every week here, Nagura, on Atal'Dazar, so not at all surprised to see the mass pull of Augurs coming in, as well as that gets down to 2% health on Games Revolted right now. Both healers up on that sterile, making sure that the Juggernauts don't charge and cleave them down. Bloodlust has been popped on both sides.
Yeah, so one thing to note here that they did kind of a bigger pull. They actually had a Stalker too on Games Revolted side, so a huge pull coming in. They pulled the Invisible Stalker who patrols on the right side on top of this pack here, and they also pulled the Augur on top, which we've seen being CC'd on, I think it was Abracadabra who CC'd it earlier. I might be wrong though. Now Games Revolted did use their Bloodlust and Method NA too, but this huge pull, just very impressive by both of those teams.
And beautifully amounts of balance damage coming out of that Prot Warrior, topping damage well above the 3 DPS in the group. Huge amounts coming out of Nerf Clap as Method NA heroically heads down towards the swords, and of course Razan, the first or often first boss of the dungeon that we see, immediately jumping off but misses his snap location and needs to immediately Swiftfoot potion and get back up there to grab the swords as well. So second time's the charm for him as he remounts and gets on there. We'll just pretend that never happened. Games Revolted on the right side of the screen has actually moved up to the Colossus pull that Tettles was touting earlier.
Yeah, so thankfully they didn't have the rogues pull the swords yet, as he was missing the jump, right? Because if you pull the swords and the tank is not actually in position and he falls off, the swords will snap to the tank's position downstairs, and that will be a horrible mistake. So good recovery here by Matherne as Nerfclub was missing that jump, kind of. The rogues waiting for Nerfclub to be in position and then pull them up with tricks of the trade as they pulled the first Reaping Wave on top of Rezan now.
Yeah, they almost had a pretty bad situation with the patrol of Rezan. Rezan was almost on the back side of the room, and that's because of that initial missed snap location. So you can see just how well and how planned this team has gotten everything down to the wire. Just a few seconds mistake there almost cost them that extra patrol timing, and it would have snowballed into extra time loss. But Games Revolted has popped their first Reaping as well with the Colossus pull and is actually working their way up the path towards Priestess Alunza. So not the most common strategy that you see, but certainly can be very effective in terms of trash count. Now, whether or not you make that work well with the Colossus and how much of a pain in the butt it is, we'll have to see if it works out for them. But Adak has unfortunately been hit by one of the Shadow Smashes from the Lost Soul, so he will have 20% decreased health for that 1 minute. Method and A doing well once again to line of sight the every 30-second AoE fear cast from Rezan as it gets down to 50%.
Yeah, very interesting strategy coming out from Games Revolted here with the Colossus, as we've seen from 40k before, as Sours mentioned earlier. Now, one thing to note here as well is that 40k once you kill both the Colossus, and then they switch their strategy up to only kill one of them and then actually go on the other side of the room. But Games Revolted killing both and then actually just going into this Priestess room, changing up their strategy completely, basically, compared to all the other teams. So they're doing this huge Priestess Alunza pull here without having their Bloodlust available, meaning that this is going to be very difficult on them because they just don't have this extra boost from Bloodlust.
Yeah, you have to be careful. This Juggernaut came in a bit late right now, and we are in a bolstering setting, meaning every mob that dies will buff everything around it by 20% remaining health and damage. So it's really important that everything's cleaved down evenly. Even the last few mobs you can see here are doing a ton of damage to the tank. Shield Wall has been popped, and even that sliver of health is very misleading. It's actually a fair bit of HP that they have to chew through. The Skull Juggernaut is going to be quite the boss to deal with right now as he's just hammering away at Rugs. Quaking coming up right now. They have to be careful to heal him through it as the second Reaping pack has procced on top of this Juggernaut. Immediately they turn around and run right into Priestess Alunza, bring her over and grab everything together. This is actually looking quite nice and efficient. I really like this strategy coming out of Games Revolted right now. I've seen this spun around a few times on live servers. I've looked at it myself too, so it's nice to see some teams kind of checking this out. We'll have to see how the rest of the routing goes for them and where they choose to hop down to Rezan. But Method and A has finished off Rezan and is now moving into more traditional means up towards Volkal's wing.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to pull off the strategy of pulling the Colossi, then it's going to be on a bolstering setting, right? Because on bolstering, you can't do those huge pulls anyway. And if you want to pull the Colossus, then you need to single target it down anyway, because it has so much more HP than the other mobs. So it's kind of goes hand in hand with the bolstering affix. And it just seems to be working out for Games Revolted as they're being really fast. Not only are they on Priestess already, but they're 49% trash compared to Method and A on 25% trash. Of course, Method killed Rezan already, so we're going to have completely different routes between those two teams, and it's going to be a little bit hard to compare those two and to see who is ahead, but I do believe Games Revolted kind of saved a lot of time just from doing this kind of Colossi pull.
Yeah, it's really neat to see. That's what I like about this dungeon. It's just so open in terms of the first three bosses. It's just essentially a big square dungeon. I mean, some of the paths are certainly not encouraged with a lot of the honor guards on the right side here that Method and A is working towards. But there are 37% have moved into Volkal's room right now and are getting ready to chew through that phase one where you have to kill all three reanimation totems at the same time. Else they will cast for 6 seconds and heal themselves to full. So you want to make sure you coordinate that well. Games are bolted now at 5% on Priestess Alunza. We'll be finishing her off. I predict here, Nagura, that what's going to happen is they're going to take their 49% downstairs, proc 60% Reaping, and then jump down to Rezan with that 60% Reaping. So we'll have to see if they follow suit on that.
Yeah, that would be definitely very efficient if they pull the Reaping on top of Rezan, as we've seen numerous times from other teams. As Method and A is doing more of just standard strategy, as we've seen from the two teams before come out as well, and Abracadabra. And then Method and A, 37% trash, so they didn't proc their second Reaping wave yet, as they're dealing with the totems here in phase one. Now, with the totems, you just want to make sure you kill them within a couple of seconds of each other so they don't heal. So Volkal actually gets activated, and now in this second phase, we've seen teams, just kind of save their offensive cooldowns because the boss slowly kills himself, and then you also have this AoE that goes down on the groups and those pulls that you need to dodge.
Really nice pull coming out of Games Revolted here. They pulled both of the sword packs and sapped crowd control the Screamer to make sure that it doesn't get bolstered. Snap the swords, kill them all together, and then the 2 Augur pack that they had stealth pressed previously along with the 2 Honor Guards, they pulled that on top of the pre-crowd controlled Sky Screamers and now are cleaving everything down together because those have the same amount of health, so they don't really have to worry about the bolstering. There's 2 reasons they want to cleave everything down at the same time here. Not only for bolstering, of course, but they want to make sure that they proc Reaping at the same time by everything dying, so they will likely grab the Reaping. We can see one of the rogues actually just jump down over the side of the bridge to distract Razan in position so that they can just jump down right on top of him, take that 60% Reaping, and get started on Razan. Rock's getting chunked quite a bit, though, before going downstairs because of the mass amount of bolstering. There's the Reaping, and down they go into Razan's pit.
Yeah, so one thing to note with bolstering as well is that not only do the mobs do more damage, but also get more HP. So bolstering is just one of those athletes, kind of like Sanguine, where you lose so much time if you mismanage the HP of mobs. So that's why you see them trying to kill everything evenly, and even if you bolster the mobs on low HP, it still costs time, right? So you definitely want to make sure you try to not bolster them, or if you have to bolster them at the very last second. And one more thing to note is the CC that is coming in from the teams. Now, the only true CC in the game is Sap from Rogue and a Demon Hunter's Cage. So those true CCs actually make the mobs not be in combat or in fight with you, while all the other CCs like Blind or the CC from the Monk coming out will actually mean that they are still in combat with you, they're just CC'd. So if you kill mobs close to a CC target that is not Sap, then they actually will get bolstered still. So it's very important that if you CC any sort of mobs and you want to kill mobs close to them while they are CC'd, it has to be a Sap from the row coming out to make sure that they're not getting bolstered.
Yeah, so Games Revolted a bit of a hiccup, unfortunately, when they jumped down. I think the Monk just took a bit too much falling damage and did die, so they had to use the Battle Res right away. Of course, they were already in combat from that 3rd Reaping Wave running all the way around the side of the arena just to join them down here at Razan. But everything seemed to work out for them in the end as Razan is at 44%. Method just now finishing up their 2nd Reaping Wave, which they procced with one of the more dangerous trash pulls in the dungeon, where you have the double Stalker, double Witch Doctor, and of course the double Shield Bearers down there. There comes the rest of the Reaping right now, and they're going to get ready to move over through the hallway and proc their 3rd Reaping soon.
Yeah, so Games Revolted is on 28% on Razan here. Razan, not a very dangerous boss fight as long as you don't get eaten whenever the pursuit is on you, which shouldn't really happen for those kind of teams. I think we saw it actually happen one time for Method and A, but they did manage to recover there. So Games Revolted is about to kill off Razan. Esther pulled those 2 Sky Screamers on top to just get some extra percentage here. Now, we of course are in a bolstering setting, so you don't want to kill mobs on top of bosses, but you can pull mobs on top of the boss when the boss is approximately the same amount of HP as the mob that you're going to pull. Because if you kill the boss and then the mob dies at the same time, then nothing's getting bolstered, and you just killed something very efficiently.
So Method and A with their own efficiency coming out here as they pull 10 swords over to the snap location. Here comes this Quaking, though. Really bad timing. Nerf Clap dips quite low. Shakib does proc his cheat death as well. They're trapped there in the corner, of course, with the snapped swords, and they had to sit there. So swords were starting to bolster on top of a splash Quaking. Here come the 2 Sky Screamers that they crowd controlled on the side. And unfortunately, they fear it in the corner right now. Are they looking to just kind of Shadow Melt it off? Yeah, so it looks like they're just going to kind of crowd control and Shadow Melt it off. Indeed, finally, the Shadow Melt comes in for a Method and A. 57% on the board for them. So they're just on the cusp of popping their 3rd Reaping, whilst Game Revolted is doing actually the same pull upstairs, multiple swords, and has already dealt with their 3rd Reaping Wave and Razan. Lighty taking a bit of damage coming in here from the swords, though.
Yeah, Games Revolted are 75%, so they're very far ahead on trash percentage compared to Method and A. Now, only 5% left to proc their 80% Reaping Wave as they're on their way to pull those next sword packs. We see the Sap coming in on those Sky Screamers, so he's true to seed, not gonna get bolstered by any of those mobs. And then we see another Sap coming out on another Sky Screamer, so they can kill the swords here without bolstering the Sky Screamers. They are using the snap location to make sure that all the swords are stacked up. This is so important in a bolstering setting, that you are using these snap locations, because if they always jump around, then you're going to have different kinds of damage on the swords, and you're going to kill some earlier than others. So snapping 2 sword packs together just means not only are they not jumping, but they also just stacked up, and you can do so much more efficient damage to them.
Yeah, no, really well done here by both teams. Games Revolted has procced their 4th Reaping Wave. The 2 Sky Screamers along with it. Here comes the rest of the Reaping out of the sides of the map as we see a 3rd Sky Screamer off screen, just pulled by Adak, one of the 2 rogues. He had his defensive running as these tricks of the trading it over to Rux, making sure to transfer that threat. A lot of damage coming in on the rogue as Yoda pops his cheat death on the side of Method and on the left side there, trying to cleave everything effectively down together and proc their 4th Reaping Wave soon. These packs, of course, we've seen Games Revolted deal with well early into the map as they approached the dungeon from the opposite direction. Neat to see from them. 82% now on the board for Games Revolted as they cleave everything else down. They need to head up to Volcall, whilst Method and Ista head up to Priestess Alunza.
Yeah, Method and A having a lot of bolstering stacks here on this pull that they did here with the Sky Screamers on top of those other mobs. So definitely got to watch out for the tank damage here coming in as they're all being bolstered. Now, one thing to mention here is that, yes, Games Revolted is ahead in trash percentage, but I do believe that the bosses that those teams have to kill are actually, it will take longer for Games Revolted to kill Volcall compared to Method and A killing Priestess Alunza, because I think Priestess Alunza just dies so fast with the transfusion coming in, while Volcall actually has phase 1 where you deal with the totems and then you deal with the boss, and you can't pull anything on top of Volcall really. So even if Games Revolted is ahead in trash, I think Method and A is not that far behind at all.
No, not far behind, but there's definitely also a bit of mismanagement from bolstering coming out of Games Revolted right now. They killed the 2 Witch Doctors very early on when the rest of the mobs were at 40% health, so 2 bolstering stacks for these quite beefy shield bearers and stalkers right now. There's a lot of damage coming in on Rux. They cleave everything else down, 98% on the board. They are done with trash at this point outside of the 1 Sky Screamer that they've likely left alive before going to Yasma. So they're going to get right in the room with Volcall. They're going to run in there, they're going to Shadow Meld, and they're going to get ready to pull this boss and try to finish it off. Method still dealing with the Bloodlust that they've already popped in order to deal with the mass trash pull before Priestess Alunza. So this is a pretty big advantage as well for Games Revolted here in Nagura. They have their Bloodlust available for the last boss, something that Method and A had to use for the trash here.
Yeah, so there's going to be 2 bosses left for both of those teams. The only thing left for Method and A is going to be this trash that you can see is the seat in the back. I think it's 1 Augur that is the seat in the back here. There's just a caster you don't want to deal with on top of the rest of the trash because there's too many interrupts at once. So they're probably going to wait until Priest Saloon's a little bit lower, then they will pull them up on top to make sure they're, of course, not bolstering her. And then Games Revolted only has the 2 bosses left and probably 1 Sky Screamer they're going to pull on top of Yasma here. So both of those teams very close to one another. But as I said earlier, Priestess Alunza is probably a boss that dies faster than Volcall, as we only need 1 or 2 more transfusions coming in from Method and A, while Games Revolted just now engaged the second phase.
There's a bit of advantage for Volcall here, which is why we can see they're not popping their Bloodlust. We do know that Volcall has that aura that not only damages the players, but himself as well. So essentially both bosses have a mechanic that helps the players by the bosses killing themselves and doing the players' work for them. Priestess Alunza just now getting her second transfusion in for 25% of her health, and there it goes down right now. She's down to 17, so they still have a bit of time to go on her. 17% health on her is actually a fair bit just because of that transfusion mechanic. 42% on Volcall for Games Revolted. This is really close. Both teams right now have 1 death on the board. Favor to Method and A, of course, because they have 2 battle reses just in case they need them. But Games Revolted still has that Bloodlust, which is going to be a significant advantage against Yasma.
Definitely. It's just this Bloodlust going to come out for Games Revolted, just making sure they gain so much single target value compared to Method and A. But Method and A killed the boss slightly earlier compared to Games Revolted. Now Games Revolted also has to do some a Shroud skip, so it's going to cost him a little bit of time because there's no member that could go earlier there to trigger the last boss event, because there's a little bit of RP role-playing going on, so you need to go close to the stairs, make sure you proc it, to make sure that your whole team can run up to the last boss. Now Method and A did make sure to pull it a little bit earlier because JB was able to leave the Priestess room before the boss died. Now Games Revolted didn't manage to have anyone leave earlier because they needed to shroud past the trash, which you can't do. You can't go invisible in the middle of a boss fight, right? So NA already engaging Yasma while Games Revolted still dealing with the Sky Screamer here.
Can't go invisible. Stack 5 rogues and vanish. The Games Revolted here proccing their 5th Reaping Wave, Shadow Melding it off and going up to Yasma, something that Method and A has already started on, but they still have 3% trash left. They'll have to deal with the skip of the 5th Reaping Wave and the last trash somewhere either throughout this fight. I'm not sure if they pulled the Sky Screamer. I didn't manage to see, so it might be waiting for them on the side there with a Paralyze from Lighty, or they might need to run down and deal with it after. Either way, this is going to be a close one as Games Revolted starts up on Yasma here, popping that Bloodlust that is available to them, something that Method and A does not have, and are looking desperately to close out this match and stay in this upper bracket.
So there's a Sky Screamer coming in from Method NA, as you can see it in the back being received by the Windwalker. Now this is something that might actually cost Games Revolted the game here, as they were single targeting the Sky Screamer pretty much, instead of just dragging it along with them to the last boss fight. Now they did have to wait for the roleplay, for the stairs to actually spawn, so it wasn't inefficient to attack the Sky Screamer, but to finish it all the way off, when he could have just run up to the boss and engaged the boss and succeed the Sky Screamer, that might actually be the one thing that cost them here, because they did have the Bloodlust ready, they did have enough damage to kill the boss faster because of the Bloodlust advantage, but because Method NA just pulled the boss so much earlier, they're ahead now, even with not having Bloodlust.
Yeah, Bloodlust is all for both teams. Second round of cooldowns should be coming up for Method NA in not too long from now, as Yasma is hitting 25%. Nerf Clap popping his shield wall, just making sure to add a bit of extra survivability as the rest of the team diverts focus to the Sky Screamer on the side. Finally, they've pulled it. They need to make sure to cleave it down efficiently with the rest of the group. Bit of damage coming in here on the group from the 100 energy cast from Yasma, making sure that these images, as always, do not reach the boss. But Yasma, 10% on the board now for Method NA, as Games Revolted is at 25%, and it looks like Method is going to be able to close this one out just barely over Games Revolted, as they're going to take the series 2-0. But I mean, Nigura, that was a close one. It was really cool to see from Games Revolted on the other side, their strategies.
That was definitely really close, as Method NA just has to kill off the Sky Screamer to win the game 2-0, but Games Revolted not far behind at all.
Fairly solid performance there by Games Revolted, but Method NA still taking that series with a 2-0 victory on Atal'Dazar. And we got the Colossi.
Who was joking about the Colossus pull? Yeah, so we definitely did see the Colossus pull coming in.
He was overjoyed.
We
Look
did
at that smile.
No, I still think it's not that great, but Games Revolted did see how it could be used really well. Like Nagura was saying, in a bolstering setting, the Colossus does gives a pretty significant amount of trash count, so pulling it might not be the worst thing, but you do end up bolstering that pack that it does come with, so it ends up costing you a little bit of time, but we did see definitely an interesting route coming out of Games Revolted, pulling that Colossus.
It was very cool to be able to start seeing, especially as they started taking on Alunza here.
Yeah. So basically, after they end up dealing with the Colossus, they pull the Reaping into Alunza, so they end up getting a pretty interesting Reaping timing. But then Method NA, they ended up taking a different route. So they ended up getting their first Reaping, pulling it into Razan, and then eventually, So Games Revolted ended up going after Alunza to Razan, while Method NA ended up going to Volcal. And then, of course, Method NA, Games Revolted down to the wire there at the very end. Like Nagura said, it probably ended up coming down to how they ended up dealing with that Sky Screamer at the very end, just single targeting it down.
I mean, yeah, that was inefficient with the Sky Screamer, but on top of it, I mean, it could have been a number of things. There was, we spotted, at least for both teams, some mismanagement with bolstering, like that double stalker, double shield bearer pack downstairs right before Volcal at the end of the map for Games Revolted. So it could have been anything that cost them just precious seconds throughout the dungeon with how close that one was.
It really started adding up there, but Tettles, if you're ready, let's take a closer look at your Colossi pull.
Yeah, so basically whenever Games Revolted does end up pulling that Colossus, you do see Asmodruid looking to get up on top of that potted plant, and the reason for that being is the Juggernauts end up trying to charge out, and so basically allowing them to stand in melee the whole entire time. You end up just kicking the Confessor and the Augur and trying to burn down the Colossus as quickly as possible in order for the Colossus to not end up having like his passive bolstering on himself. So basically whenever a troll dies near him, he ends up gaining some health and significant amounts of damage, so he has to be #1 priority. So we did see them end up nuking down the Colossus while Asmonbald was standing on that plant, not letting the Juggernauts go out, and it ended up changing their path. I thought it was an okay path, especially for this instance being bolstering like we did see.
Yeah, you got a little bit of guarding there, jumping on the potted plant to make sure that he wasn't going to be charged by any of those Juggernauts. But with that win, Method NA is going to be moving on and playing up against Abracadabra just a little bit later here. Now we're looking at the lower quarters coming up with Learn to Fly and Limit, and then Games Revolted and Team Pualuka going into this one. So at this point, Salute, I think in a lot of ways we kind of have some pretty solid ideas as to who's going to be taking some of these lower round games. We're having both the 7th and 8th seed moving down, but also some pretty solid competition at a Learn to Fly and Pualuka.